So today's video is going to be my September reading wrap up. I only have one physical book to show you guys. I did annotate something else, but don't have it to show at the moment. And then I did mostly audiobooks. I either have one or two Kindle books. I think I only did one Kindle book, if I'm being honest. I didn't have a ton of time to read this month. Honestly, it's not so much that I didn't have a ton of time to read, it's that I was doing other hobbies. And I got caught in a little bit of a reading slump. I did Just for the Summer in August, and that book was so good that everything else I read after it did not compare. So I got caught in a reading slump, but I think I'm out of it. So I'm going to show you guys my Kindle reads and audiobook first, and then I'll show you the physical book that I did. Okay, let's open this up. So, and these aren't going to be in order of how I read them. I told you in my last reading wrap up that I did book 3 from the Chicago Grizzly series by Piper Rain. I read them backwards. I did 3, 2, and then 1. So, sorry about the cars, guys, because I don't have the mic hooked up. You're gonna hear excess noise that I can't mute. So, I read Something Like Hate by Piper Rain. Let's hold this up. And I gave this one 3 stars. Let's see. Oh, why are we not loading properly? 1 second, guys. For some reason, this doesn't want to load today. Let's try again. Here we go. Okay, so this says, I love him, I loathe him. It's the plucking daisy petals in my head, but he'll never know. When Miles Cavanaugh, the best safety in the league, was traded to the Chicago Grizzlies football team last year, I could finally breathe. Temptation was miles away. How naive to think it would end there, because when the opportunity to write for a national magazine based in Chicago lands in my lap months later, I can't turn it down. Sure, it's a big city, but the sexual energy feels like a beacon between us the minute my plane lands. To make matters worse, I end up having to take over the job of reporting exclusively on the Chicago Grizzlies, which means traveling with the team, interviewing players, and pretty much having an all-access pass to their lives during the season. Miles and I put up a great front, quickly hating on one another, but we both know it's a lie. We also know the rules are simple. For me, don't sleep with the subject of your articles. For him, don't sleep with the journalist who can make or break your career. I thought straight-laced Miles Cavanaugh followed all the rules. Oh, how wrong I was. So this one I gave 3 stars. And I think, honestly, this was my least favorite of the Chicago Grizzlies series. That being said, it was still good. This was an audiobook, and yeah, it's enjoyable, quick, easy read. I mentioned in, I believe, my last reading wrap up that when I do audiobooks, I listen to them at like 1.5 times speed. So it says that usually it would take about 6 hours, and so I fall about 3.5, 4.5 hours, somewhere around there, listening to that. So It didn't take very long to read. It's a good, quick, easy read, especially with it being football season right now. It was a good read. And then I also read Something Like Lust, which is book 2 by Piper Rain. I'll show you guys a picture in a minute. I'm gonna read the synopsis first. Do it, don't do it. Never in my life did I think I'd wager in my head whether to sleep with Chicago Grizzlies wide receiver Damon Siska. He's the perfect package, hot body, killer smile, and flirts like he earned a doctorate in it. But anyone who reads gossip blogs knows he is looking for one amazing night and nothing more. I'm not the usual type of woman he vets. I'm a middle school teacher who cherishes her quiet nights in, drinking wine and watching romantic comedies, dreaming I'm the heroine. I'm not embarrassed to admit I want the fairy tale. But Damon caught me at a weak moment, fresh off a breakup and feeling lousy about myself. I gave in to temptation and left the next morning like every other woman he'd slept with. Except I walked away with more than just the memories, when 3 weeks later the little white stick glowed with 2 pink lines. So first I gave this 4 stars. I really, really, really liked this one. That's the cover, that one. This was another audiobook. It was nice to be able to roll from one right to the other, right to the next. Some series are so long that I'll like break it up. I'll read a couple and then I'll read something else, or I'll read one and then I'll read something else. But these were quick, easy reads. She's got other books on, I believe this was on Hoopla that I borrowed the audiobook. So I will most likely be reading more of her books. Let's do the next audiobook. So this one I found on Kindle Unlimited. And it is called The Marriage Auction, Book 1 by Audrey Carlin. What would you do for $3 million? 4 young women enter into a clandestine auction to be married to the highest bidders for no less than $1 million a year for 3 years. Each woman will do what it takes to secure her future. Entangled in a high-stakes game of money, lust, power, and the hope for absolution, this group of women becomes a sisterhood unlike any other. Once chosen by a man she has never met and agrees to marry sight unseen, there is no going back. Hidden secrets, wicked desires, fiery couplings, and intense family drama are all part of the deal when you willingly enter into the marriage auction. You may now kiss the bride. And it has a content warning, so it says intended for mature audiences only, explicit content. Please check the author's website for detailed content warnings, because it does deal with abuse and such. But I was just looking for an audiobook, and Hoopla didn't have anything I was interested in at the moment. Libby, I'm still waiting weeks and weeks and weeks to get what I'm interested in reading. So I went into Kindle Unlimited. I'm like, well, let's see if they have any audiobooks I'm interested in. And this one came up, and I'm like, well, that sounds like an interesting premise. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. There's so many different characters and so many different accents, and just really great storyline. So the funny thing is, the first book barely even delves into the story, so I will be continuing this series as well. Let me show you a picture of this one. That's what it looks like. Okay. Then the last audiobook I read, I was looking for a thriller, especially with it being spooky season, right? And I had previously read, trying to think, what was the other one called? I can't think of it off the top of my head. Oh, The Perfect Marriage. Okay, so I had previously read The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose, and this book came up by her. It's called You Shouldn't Have Come Here. I really liked The Perfect Marriage. I don't read a lot of thrillers. I do occasionally like to, but that being said, I don't call like the twists and turns of a lot of the thriller books because I don't read them enough to be able to like predict that. But so that being said, I don't know how predictable this one would be for anybody else. For me, it wasn't necessarily predictable. There was a lot of twists and turns to it. I kind of called the ending, but it was still a really good read. So, like I said, this is You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Geneva Rose. Grace Evans, an overworked New Yorker looking for a total escape from her busy life, books an Airbnb on a ranch in the middle of Wyoming. When she arrives, she is pleasantly surprised to find that the owner is a handsome man by the name of Calvin Wells. But there are things Grace discovers that she's not too pleased about: a lack of cell phone service, a missing woman, and a feeling that something isn't right with the town. Despite her uneasiness and misgivings from Calvin's friends and family, the two grow close and start to fall for one another. However, as her departure date nears, things between them start to change for the worse. Grace grows wary of Calvin as his infatuation for her seems to turn into obsession. Calvin fears that Grace is hiding something from him. Told from dual points of view, You Shouldn't Have Come Here is a thrill ride and a cautionary tale of what can go wrong when you open up your house and your heart to a total stranger. Okay, let me show you. Here we go. Sorry about the glare, guys. I gave this one 3 stars, which for me is not bad. It just means it's an average read. It's usually, I would say, a good read. It's just not like my top books. But all that to say, it was still a good read for me. Then I only read one Kindle book. I started one, but I didn't finish it. And technically this is like a short story. I want to say, yeah, it was like 65 pages, so it wasn't very long. This one was called Mr. October by Bethany Weaver. Halloween has come early in this steamy friends to lovers, teacher romance filled with secret pining, fun hijinks, and quirky small town feels. Sabrina is no stranger to Halloween pranks played around Grimsby, Indiana in the month of October. In fact, she is the recipient of nearly all of them. Usually she would laugh it off and spend the rest of the month looking over her shoulder, anxiously awaiting the next scare. But not this year. She's ready to fight prank with prank, starting with her best friend and Grimsby High's favorite history teacher, Mr. October. This was cute. I gave it 3 stars. Just a cute, quick read. I was trying to get into the spooky spirit, so I thought that sounded good, and it was good. Okay, so that's it for the Kindle and audiobooks. And then let's go to the physical book I read. I finished The Lost Boys of Barlow Theater by Jamie Jo Wright. Any of you that have been around for a little bit know that she is one of my favorite authors. I'm actually currently looking at my shelf, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 books. This being book 10 on my shelf. So, it promises beauty but steals life instead. Will the ghosts of Barlow Theatre entomb them all? Barlow Theatre stole the life of Greta Mercy's eldest brother during its construction. Now in 1915, the completed theater appears every bit as deadly. When Greta's younger brother goes missing after breaking into the building, Greta engages the assistance of a local police officer to help her unveil the already ghostly secrets of the theater. But when help comes from an unlikely source, Greta decides that to save her family, she must uncover the evil that haunts the theater and put its threats to rest. Decades later, Kit Boyd's best friend vanishes during a ghost walk at the Barlow Theatre, and old stories of mysterious disappearances and ghoulish happenings are revived. Then television ghost hunting host and skeptic Evan Fisher joins Kit in the quest to identify the truth behind the theater's history. Kit reluctantly agrees to work with him in hopes of finding her missing friend. As the theater's curse unravels Kit's life, she is determined to put an end to the evil that has marked the theater and their hometown for the last century. So I believe I gave this 4 stars. I had a hard time getting into this one, but I think part of that is because I was in a reading slump. Other than that, I recommend all of her books. So they're like suspense. Some can kind of be a little bit like thrillerish. Time slip. There's a little bit of romance. They're all really good books. I usually mention the other books by her in these videos, so I'll do that now. Let's see here. So these are not a series, by the way. It's just I read them how they come out. I actually have 2 more books by her on my TBR shelf at the moment, and then she has another one coming out in April, I believe. So the first book is The House on Foster Hill, which will always be one of my favorites, and honestly it's been so long since I read it that I could probably read it again. The Reckoning at Gossamer Pond, The Curse of Misty Wayfair, Echoes Among the Stones. Echoes Among the Stones, I would say, is one of my least favorite. I still think I gave it 4 stars though. Like I said, they're still really good books. It's just some of them I don't connect with the characters as much. The Haunting at Bonaventure Circus, which I think is my favorite book, by Jamie Jo Wright. On the Cliffs of Foxglove Manor, The Souls of Lost Lake. The Souls of Lost Lake was another one that was like one of my least favorites. The Premonition at Withers Farm, which was one of my most favorites, and then The Vanishing at Castle Moreau. I was gonna see if they listed her next one in here. I don't think they do, because I'm not sure they released the title. Yeah, it doesn't say. But anyway, these are all clean reads. This is a Christian author and a Christian publisher, so if you're not interested in like any of the spice or anything like that, these are good for that. You guys know I read a lot with spice in it, and really anymore, most romance books have some form of spice in them. But anyway, that was all of the books I read. Like I said, I occasionally have a few books I don't share, and that's just because they're like more personal to me. But it's funny because I had one more book I wanted to finish in September, and I finished it October 1st, so I didn't get to include it in this one. But I don't think I have anything else to say. Like I said, September wasn't my most productive reading month, but I'm hoping this month is better. Had to pull out my bookmark. It says, all I wanted was to be loved for myself, and that's from the Phantom of the Opera. I have to actually clear space off to put this on my shelf. I'm reading Spookly Yours, which is a Kindle book. I can't remember the name of the author at the moment. Oh, I can look. I have my Kindle right here. I'm reading The Games Gods Play by Abigail Owen. And I'm 50 pages in and loving it. Okay, so Spookly Yours is by, that's a Jennifer Chapman. Let's see. Yeah, Chipman. Jennifer Chipman. So that's my Kindle read at the moment. The audiobook I'm reading, let's see. Sometimes I read so many books that I can't keep track of like all the authors and the titles. Let's see. I am reading Daydream by Hannah Grace. That's the book I'm annotating this month. Oh, None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell is what I'm listening to at the moment. And I have quite a few books I'd like to get through this October, but we'll see. Like I said, you know, life happens, I get busy, and I also get into my other hobbies where I want to be working on that stuff more. So a lot of the time the audiobooks are good because I can do those while I'm cleaning or while I'm crocheting or whatever I'm doing. Anyway, now I'm just rambling at this point. I hope you guys enjoyed this lo-fi soft-spoken video. Let me know if you want more of these. Okay. I'll see you guys in my next video.